Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Wachachudash, double honors unto the elders and apostles of great most and rule well. Shalom, as always, unto the elect of the nation of Israel, the 144,000 men, and the other members of the elect that are destined to be saved. I'm the brother Caleb for the GMS England London Forecasters Camp, back with another lesson to help edify the Lord's elect. As always, I like to start by saying that we are the real Hebrew Israelites, and the real Israelites are so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians, and West Africans predominantly. However, you will find Israelites that do look like the other nations, because we as a people have been scattered amongst all nations. But if your seed line by your forefathers goes back to the man in the Bible that was named Israel, then you too are an Israelite, no matter what you may look like, because Numbers 1 and 18 states that your nationality is determined by the nationality of your forefathers. And once again, just in case I missed it, double honors unto the elders and apostles of great millstone who rule well and teach well, who continue to teach this truth, and who I learnt this truth from. So I want to do a lesson entitled probably something along the lines of "Am I my brother's keeper?" Because one of the earliest stories in the Bible that we come across is the story of Cain and Abel, and it's basically the situation which was the precursor to the situation we're living out today as Israelites in this theatre called life. You know, the two main players on the stage at the moment are the two nations, Israel and the nation of Edom. Those are the two principal players on the stage at this point in time. You know, like in any good drama, you've got the hero and you've got the villain. The hero would be the nation of Israel, and the villain would be the nation of Edom. Now, this goes back to Cain and Abel, who, if you can receive it, were Jacob and Esau in the reincarnation. So the story begins in Genesis 4, and as I say, the title of this lesson is going to be something along the lines of "Am I my brother's keeper?" Because as Israelites under the law, we are supposed to have a care for our neighbors, you know, and we are supposed to have be looking out for our brothers, you know. And the spirit of Esau is not that way. And obviously, because Jake is under the curses, a lot of Israelites do not behave that way. It's quite sad, but really it goes back to a very sort of individualistic mindset, and not a nation building mindset. Because when someone's operating as an individual, they're basically out for themselves and what they can get in most situations, and they don't put the considerations of others as a high priority in their mind. And that thought process really alienates one from the Most High, because that's a very carnal minded mindset. And as we know, Esau, or I should say Abel, was a carnal man, and he acted out carnally against his brother. And I'm going to read the account here. As I say, one of the earliest stories in the scriptures, Genesis 4. And Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought forth the fruit of the ground as an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel also brought the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and unto his offering. But unto Cain and unto his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So let's break this down. Cain offered the wrong sacrifice. Right? He didn't do it properly. He knew the deal, but he thought, you know what, man, I'm just going to par the Most High off by offering him some fruit. Abel, on the other hand, done it correctly and offered the firstlings of his flock as a sacrifice unto Yahweh. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and his offering, but unto Cain he had not respect. And you know what? Cain got cut by that. Cain wasn't doing the right thing, and he was humiliated as a result of him not doing the right thing and thinking he could get by on it. So he got cut in the spirit. And what did Cain do after he got cut in the spirit? Let's read it. It says, And Yahweh said unto Cain, through the mouth of a prophet, or back in those days they were called seers, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? See, if thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So Cain was presented with a choice. He could either get his shit together, fix himself up, and try and do better to win the respect of the Lord, or he could turn to sin. Now, most people in lives are presented with these situations on a daily basis because the lives we live are essentially tests playing out to see what manner of men we are. I say what manner of men because the Most High is really dealing with the men mostly. At the end of the day, King Solomon said in regards to the women, one man among 1,000 that are found righteous, but none, he's not found any women righteous. So really, I'm just addressing this to the men because that's really who the Most High is dealing with at this point. Obviously, you are going to have believing sisters and stuff, but their role to play is different to the role of a man. The man is really supposed to be the under the authority of the Most High and dealing with the law of the Most High and adhering to that, So Cain had a choice. There was a fork in the road. Fix up, take a good look in the mirror, change yourself, change your life, get better, or take the easy road, which is the path of sin. See, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If doing the right thing was easy, everybody would do it. But oftentimes doing the right thing is often more difficult. Now, it depends on what manner of person you are, because too many shortcuts lead to a bad destination. If you cut corners here, cut corners there, you're never really being put through the fire in the correct way to purge out your impurities. Sometimes you have to go through rough stuff. Taking the easy route, you're going to end up at a bad destination, man. Sometimes you've got to take them hard roads. Actually, I'm not going to say sometimes. 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to take them hard roads. And a lot of people don't have the willpower, the endurance, the tenacity to take a hard road on and walk by faith and hope that, in due time, the Most High is going to lead me to where I need to be, because that takes faith. And what is faith? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. To walk by faith is not a very easy thing to do because you have to put aside your own will. See, this is what a lot of what this truth is about. Isn't about doing what we want to do because our flesh is wicked. Oftentimes our flesh will want us to do things that are off. So what we really need to do is bring our thoughts into accordance with the scriptures. Rather than thinking, I want to do this or I want to do that. We should really be saying, well, what does the scriptures say about this? Or what do the scriptures say about that? And by doing that, that's how you can that's how a lot of times you can actually resist demonic influences over your life and over your thought patterns. Because the word demon means intelligence. And the biggest mistake that brothers can make, or one of the biggest mistakes that brothers can make, is underestimating the level of spiritual warfare that we are subjected to every day. See, we don't see arrows being shot. We don't see bullets flying past our head. We don't see demons coming at us with swords and shields, because that's all in the spiritual realm. And oftentimes, unless you're having hallucinations and the Most High gives you a vision, you're not going to see them things. You might be walking down the road and it might seem like a nice, warm, sunny day. Birds are chirping. Everything seems fine. There's not really much going on. Well, think again, because in the spiritual realm, there's more shit going on than you could comprehend. If you were to, if the Most High were to peel back the veil and you could see the demons on, like, all the people walking past you, all the people driving past you in the cars, like the amount of demonic activity that's taking place around you would blow your mind. Now, demons are going to try and work on your mind too. Now, This is why I'm saying this, because the point is that when you bring your thoughts into accordance with the scriptures, and before acting out, you're thinking, what did the scriptures say about that? Or what did the Bible say about this or that? You bring your every thought, you question it. What starts to happen then is that you'll start to expose demonic voices that might be talking to you. Because never underestimate how intelligent demons are, because demons can impersonate your own voice. I'm going to slow it down and say it again. Never underestimate how intelligent demons are, because demons can impersonate your own voice. Therefore, the thoughts that you're thinking, oh, well, it's just my voice and I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that. Well, you need to check yourself, because it could be a demon talking to you, putting these thoughts and ideas in your head. And what does it do? It works slowly over time. So let's say it will suggest something to you off. I'll use an example, a hypothetical. Let's say the demon suggests to you, oh, well, your friend James, he's got a girlfriend and she's really attractive, isn't she? See, that could be a thought that comes into your head. You might have a friend called James and he's got a girlfriend. Let's call her Mandy or something, right? And you find her attractive. And then the thought's saying to you, oh, but she's really attractive, isn't she? Yeah, she's really pretty. She's got nice ass. She's got nice breasts. It starts subtly like that. You see, them little thoughts there, if they're not checked, end up leading to something bigger, which would be potentially you being in a situation where Mandy comes onto you behind James's back, and then you're off committing adultery with her. I'm using it as a hypothetical example, but that's a good one to show how insidious these demonic voices can be, because if they're not checked, they can lead to bigger problems down the line. Now, these spirits are set up to do certain things to test you in certain ways. Whether or not you pass the test, nobody can do it for you. That's why you've got to be on your watch. We're supposed to be spiritual watchmen, and not being asleep at the wheel, so to speak. Letting these demons run up on you and start plaguing your mind with all these off thoughts, until eventually you start acting out some wayward sin and fucking up, and potentially, getting kicked out of the truth or rejected by the Most High ultimately, which is what happened to Cain. I'm going to bring out some precepts to back up my point in a moment. Let's finish this account and we'll get deeper into it. And furthermore, Yahushua said, whosoever looketh after a woman to lust after her have already committed adultery in his heart. And that scripture ties into what I was just explaining there. When let's say you're actively looking at a woman and you're not checking your thoughts and bringing it into accordance with the law, like, you know what, man, that's the next man's woman. I don't need to be looking at her. Let me ignore her, and the Most High will bring me a woman of my own, if it be His will. If not, fine, I'll just keep pushing and do the work and stay in my damn lane and not be coveting what another man has. Because in the law it says thou shalt not covet. You're not supposed to covet your neighbor's wife, his ox, any of his possessions. That covetous spirit is very worldly, man. Really, we're not supposed to be envying our brothers, because at the day, if we are indeed brothers, we're supposed to be working as a team. And when you're working as a team, you're working for the greater good of the collective, which would be the body, right? So what you need to understand is, or what I need to understand is, well, I'm explaining it, so I didn't put but I'm involved in this too, because I could be susceptible to anything I'm saying, God forbid. But when you're working as a team, right, another brother's success doesn't just benefit the other brother, it benefits the whole team. But if you don't have a team-oriented mindset, you may end up becoming jealous of that brother and thinking, oh, well, why has he got this? Or why has he got that? Or, and what does that lead to? That leads to envy. And what does envy lead to? It leads to jealousy. And what does jealousy lead to, if not checked? Sin. See, it's all these pathways that can lead to sin. We don't want to be putting our foot on those roads, man. We don't need to be. We're supposed to be wise to these things, because the scriptures give us the guidelines and the template as to overcome these pitfalls of life. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There is no situation, no circumstance that a man can conceive in his head that hasn't been addressed in some way, shape, or form by the Bible. That's the power of the book. It is a living book. And what did Yahushua say? Lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me. So there's no situation that can come up where you don't know how to move or don't know how to act or don't know how to behave if you are indeed reading the scriptures, because the scriptures give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and understanding to move in ways we'd have never imagined if we were working under our own mind. But when we bring our mind in line with the scriptures, that's where the power lies. What does Proverbs 3 and verse 5 say? Proverbs 3 and verse 5 says, I'm going to just quote it off the top because I know it verbatim. That's one of my favorite ones. Proverbs 3 and verse 5 says, actually, no, let's get it for edification's sake so those who are watching can read along. Proverbs 3 and the 5th verse says, trust in Yahweh with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil. These are deep scriptures, man. In light of what I'm saying, these are very, very deep scriptures because these are the keys to success. But that takes submission. You know, in order for you to trust in Yahweh with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding, that you need to have a few components to do that. The first component is a will to submit to the Lord of the Lord, a will to submit to the law of the Lord, and let go of your desires, because desires are they'll often lead to a lot of sins. Now, not all desires are bad, but oftentimes in this world, we have foolish, fleshly, carnal desires, which we tend to want to act upon because we're in sinful bodies at this stage of the game. To submit is a difficult thing to do because it takes faith. You see, oftentimes in situations in life, we've grown up in a society where we're taught that we have to do this or do that and act on this and act on that. The Bible teaches us a very different way. The Bible teaches us a more passive way, where like, you know what, man, I'm going to trust in the Lord, and although I might want this situation to go a certain way, or I might want a particular outcome, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to allow the Lord to present me with the outcome he wants to. That's submission, and that's what the Most High wants. The opposite of submission is rebellion. And rebellion is likened unto the sin of witchcraft. So really, if you're acting on your own incentives and ideas, and you're exalting your own will above the will of the Most High, you're essentially a witch. And what did the scriptures say? Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So the Most High ain't with that. And what does that also include? What does that also include? When you start acting upon your own will and you think, oh, well, I've done this and I've done that, and what that tends to be an opening for pride to creep in. You're thinking that you're someone maybe who you're not, because you have an overly inflated sense of self, because you're putting everything into, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that, rather than, well, the Lord provided me with this or the Lord provided me with that. See, when you take that approach, when you're thinking, well, like when you say things like, a lot of people in the world say, oh, well, tomorrow I'm going to go down to the bank, or tomorrow I'm going to go down to the shop, or tomorrow I'm going to the fun fair, or tomorrow I'm going on holiday to France, or whatever. A lot of people have that mindset. That's how they think. The Most High doesn't really respect that mindset, which is why we, brothers that are in the faith, we say, Lord's will. Lord willing, I'll go to the bank tomorrow. Lord willing, I'll go to France on an aeroplane. Lord willing, I'll be able to go to the shops and come home. See, because none of us are promised tomorrow. So again, this is where submission comes in. And when you submit to the will of the Lord, you start moving more on faith. And your faith will become stronger when it's proven. What I mean by being proven is that when you go through certain situations you're like, you know what, man, I'm going to have to trust in the will of the Lord, and whatever the Lord wills, I'm down with it. And then when the Lord brings a particular outcome, you say, Thawadi Halba Shem Shai, and your faith is increased because you've then trusted in the Lord and the Lord's come through for you. So therefore, you've got a clear example based on faith that the Lord is moving in your life. When you don't do these type of things, how are you going to increase your faith? If you're always acting on your own will, how can you ever expect your faith to increase? Now, the scriptures do say faith is a gift from the Most High, and it was created with the faithful in the room, roughly paraphrasing. But at the same time, it also says in another precept, which I'm roughly paraphrasing these ones, it says, let me get it rather than roughly paraphrase it. Bear me a second because I'm going to butcher it. Hold on, just pulling it up. Got that one on deck. First of all, I'm going to bring out Hebrews 11:1. I'll get it on the screen so you can read along for those who are watching this video to find it edifying. Hebrews 11 and verse 1 says this. Not Hebrews 1, Hebrews 11 and 1. Says this, it says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Look, man, you can have one verse in the Bible that's like one sentence, but it says so much. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for. So we all have hopes and dreams in this life. It's part of human nature to have dreams. There's things we want, good outcomes, desirable things. It's natural. Obviously not to the point of coveting, but you know what I mean? Like you might want, just simple things like maybe you want a nice pair of jeans. Maybe you want a nice car. Maybe you do want to have a nice weekend away. So long as it's within measure, it's not covetous. So long as you're not selling your soul for such things. Because, not to get sidetracked, but people sell their souls every day. Oftentimes in like cartoons or whatever, like back in the day, you see Looney Tunes or whatever, you'd have a character come along that's the devil and he pulls out a contract and it's like, yeah, sell your soul or whatever, and the character will sign on the dotted line or whatever. That's, the theatrical portrayal of selling one's soul. However, that's not really how it plays out in life. You're not going to see some demon with a red pitchfork, a red demon with a pitchfork coming up to you with some scroll of a contract saying, yeah, sign here in blood. That's not how it works. How it really works is when you sell your integrity, you compromise your integrity, you compromise your morals, you don't follow through on your belief in the scriptures, and you do something off or wayward, you've basically just sold your soul, man. What does Matthew 16:26 say? I'll come back to Hebrews 11. Matthew 16:26 says, so lucky if it seems like I'm jumping around, I'm kind of just flowing in the spirit here. Matthew 16:26 says this. I'll go back to my original point, but it's all linked. Matthew 16:26 says, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Now, these are the words of Yahushua, and Yahushua was very fit to speak upon this very issue. Because what did Satan do to Yahushua when he went on his 40-day fast? He tried to tempt Yahushua and told him, go to Matthew 4. Matthew 4, the account here is that we'll just read from Matthew 4 verse 1. Then when Yahushua was led up in the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And what did the scripture say? The servant is not greater than his master. So if we are indeed servants of Yahushua, we are too being tempted. But a lot of the time, the temptation is spiritual and not physical. But the spiritual things precede the physical things. But you got to be discerning enough to see how spirits are moving, and that's not something that everybody has skill in doing, because we grew up in a very carnal world. We went to a very carnal education system. We work on very carnal jobs. We're surrounded by very carnal minded people. We live in a world where talk of spiritual things, angels and demons, is shunned. You know, you talk too much about spiritual matters, people will call you bugged out and crazy. However, doesn't mean it's not real. That realm is very real. So, the spiritual things precede the physical things. And depending on one's level of discernment, you can kind of see situations playing out in the spirit before they play out on the planet. And then there's different things I can go into about that. Like, for example, before certain events happen, brothers might get certain dreams where they see certain things happening in the spirit, and then through interpretation of the dream, they're like, hang on a minute, I saw this in a dream and then it played out in life a certain way, but the dream foretold me of it. What do the scriptures say about that? It says, your young men shall prophesy. Let me get that quickly. I'll come back to the account. This is Joel. Yeah, Joel 2 and 28. I'm going to read it because I want to stay on Matthew 4. But Joel 2 and 28 says, and it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. So everybody's been given a different portion of the spirit, you know. Some men have more dreams and visions. Some men may have more hallucinations, others not. But at the same time, if you want to gain these things, becoming stronger in faith can help one perhaps obtain these things in time, if it be the Lord's will. Like, for example, when Elijah and Elisha were walking together, and Elijah was about to be taken up in the chariot, Elisha prayed for a double portion of Elijah's spirit, and it was bestowed upon him. You know, Elisha did the right thing. He didn't be a hater and like be like, oh well, why has Elijah got that portion of the spirit? Who does he think he is? And blah 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 blah. No, he respected the fact that the Most High bestowed a certain portion on Elijah and prayed that he too could receive it. And what happened? He received a greater portion of the spirit. That's how we're supposed to be. You know, we should always be desiring to get to the next level. There's no reason for us to be content to just stay at level 1 in this truth, man. Because this truth, if you're really into it, it's the most beautifulest woman you could ever imagine. You know, because wisdom's likened unto a woman. Now, you know, like most guys, I like really beautiful women. They're wonderful. I have a great appreciation for a woman's beauty. But this truth should be as beautiful to us as the most beautiful woman we can imagine. And if you're with a really beautiful woman, you're gonna want to know everything about her. Oh, what's her favorite food? You know, where's she from? What's her family like? What's her favorite color? What does she find funny? You know, what's her favorite film? What's her favorite song? All these things you'll be pondering in your mind because you have an interest, a genuine, sincere interest in this woman. We should have that same genuine, sincere interest for this truth. And this is the thing, the more spiritual you are, it's like you want to spend all your time, or we're balanced, but you want to spend more time with this than you will with things in the world. I'll give you an example. It's the Sabbath today. And most days I try to keep the Sabbath to the best of my ability. I was recently talking to another brother. Excuse me. I was recently talking to another brother, and he was like, To cut a long story short, I was going to do something that was entertaining on the Sabbath. Not necessarily going off in a big way, but just it's something that would take me away from being fully focused on the Lord. And he reminded me that, the Sabbath is the Lord's day. And I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right, man. I'm going to put off what I want to do. And I'm going to spend my day focusing 100% on things pertaining to the Spirit and the Scriptures, and try and stay in the Spirit. And you know what? The Sabbath becomes so much more enjoyable. Because it's like, you're thinking, hang on a minute. Like, I might be thinking, yeah, well, I need to tidy up the house, or I need to do the laundry, or I need to do this or do that. Oh, man, just chill. Just chill. Enjoy time with the Lord. And you know what? It's beautiful. And the more you do that, the less you want to do the things, like the stupid cares of life that you think, oh, well, I've got to rush and do this and I've got to rush and do that. It becomes, oh, man, today's for the Lord. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So lucky I've got sidetracked. I'm talking about a few different things, but it's all related to the same topic of submission. And through submitting to the Lord, you increase in your faith, because remember what I said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Because we can't see it, but yet we believe that the Lord will provide it for us in due time, that's counted as faith. Like when Abraham was sojourning, he had to leave his father's house. Abraham walked by faith, not by sight. He didn't know where he was going, but he trusted in the Lord. And the Lord made him certain promises. He promised that he would give Abraham a seed and multiply his seed. Abraham went for many years without a child. He tried to do it by his own wisdom, and he got Isaac, but that was a child born of flesh by Hagar. The child that was promised, which was born of the Spirit, was Isaac. And that was the child that came through Abraham and Sarah, when Sarah was above the age of being able to conceive children. But Abraham believed in the Lord's promise through faith, and in due time, the substance of the thing he hoped for, the evidence of the thing that was not seen, was bestowed upon him, and he was given his child Isaac. And even then, Abraham's faith was tested further when the Lord wanted to see, look, you know what, man, Abraham loves his little boy Isaac. That's the thing he's dreamed about all his life. But you know what? Let's see how much Abraham loves me. Will he be willing to forsake the thing which he loves the most to do my will? That's why when Abraham was told to sacrifice Isaac, he was prepared to do it. We have to be that same way. We have to be willing to put aside the things that we might hope for, the things that we might cherish, for the sake of doing the will of the Most High. That's what faith really is. Putting ourselves aside and doing what the Most High said, even if it doesn't make sense to us at the time. See, a carnal-minded man would be like, how the hell can you believe in a God that's telling you to murder your own son? That's madness, man. That's madness. I'm not doing that, man. Nah, to hell with this. I'm done. That kind of spirit. Well, guess what? Maybe that was put upon you to root you out. Because you couldn't put aside your pride and your own individualistic mindset. You wasn't willing to submit your will to the will of the Most High. So therefore, you know what? What happened to King Saul? He didn't want to submit to the will of the Lord. And what did Samuel say to him? Obedience is better than sacrifice. And what happened? The spirit was taken off Saul and it was put upon David. And then what did Saul do? He started to hate David because he knew that David was a better man than him. And rather than just being like, you know what, man? I'm kind of fucked up, man. Yeah, I made some mistakes, but you know what, David? You're a good guy and I respect you. And may the Lord bless you. And may the Lord help you lead Israel in the right way. See, if Saul had done that, he could have had a more humble spirit, respected David was the anointed one, and just humbled down. It would have been cool. But what did Saul try to do? He done some Esau shit, man. Fucking hurling javelins at David to where he has to duck out the room and shit. Getting more and more plagued by evil demons. Countless times trying to slay David. Those are nigger moves, man. Absolute nigger moves, and those are Cain moves. Because if you remember, Cain offered the wrong sacrifice. And so did King Saul. Because Saul was told to kill all the oxen, all the sheep, don't take any spoils. But Saul wanted to do it his own way. Why? because he didn't have faith in the Lord and he wanted to do it his own way. So he exalted his own will above the will of the Most High. And what is that? Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And it was culminated in the fact that Saul went and consulted with the witch of Endor, which is going off, which is kind of, well, not kind of, it was very prophetic the way he died, because Saul was rebellious. And, rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And the scriptures say, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So the end of Saul didn't end. Saul's destruction didn't come overnight. It was a gradual progression of bad choices, bad mistakes, not adhering to Proverbs 3 and verse 5, which, to be fair, Proverbs 3 and verse 5 hadn't been written at the time of King Saul. But I'm sure the wisdom was there, just in other ways. But it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths. Right? Now, the Most High doesn't work on a straight upward gradient. Like if you look at a graph and you see a diagonal line just of increase. No, the Most High is going to lead you down, then up, then maybe down a little further, then up a lot higher. It's not a straight walk, man. Sometimes the Most High will put you into humiliating situations or make things go terribly wrong for you just to try you, to see, you know what, man, I'm going to put some hell on this guy. But is he going to endure the hell? Is he going to retain his integrity? Is he not going to forsake the law of the Lord? And is he going to endure unto the end of the trial so that in due time I can increase him? Or is he going to try and do things his own way and then get puffed up with pride, thinking that he's someone bigger than he may or may not be? So ultimately, I have to bring a destruction upon him, because he's been too his mind has become too contaminated with pride, and the only remedy for pride is destruction. That's a lesson in itself. I'm just thinking that maybe I'll do a lesson on that. But anyway, coming back to the point, we're all going to be tried in this life. So every day is a trial of our faith, you know. So the servant isn't greater than his master. So let me go back to Matthew 4. Then Yahushua was led in the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterwards a-hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. See, I use my imagination when I hear the voice of Satan here. But the voice of Satan could have come in a very subtle way. It could have sounded like Yahushua's own voice, which would have been even more persuasive, because he'd be thinking to himself in his own tone, if you be the Son of the Most High, command these stones to be bread, and then you can eat. You see, when a demon speaks to you that way, rather than in the, the theatrical, if thou be the Son of the Most High, command these stones to be made bread. It's very bait. You know clearly it's the demon talking to you. Now the demons, as I say, the word demon means intelligence. So the demon's going to try and be as subtle as it possibly can. So therefore, it will impersonate your own voice to make you think you're thinking these thoughts. That way you're thinking, oh, it's just a normal thought. And if you're not spiritual, you don't check that thought. And then that one unchecked thought leads to another perverse thought. And then that other perverse thought leads to another perverse thought. Until you get to a point where your mind is so saturated by perverse and corrupt thoughts that you end out acting out upon them, which is the fruition of sin. You see, sin doesn't just start on a random. It's subtle, it's slow, and it leads to the acting out of sin. But let's come back to this, and I'll get into that in a moment. It says, but he answered and said, it is written. And this is how we're supposed to answer the demons when they talk to us. But this is the thing, we've got to be spiritually discerning, and we've got to be strong in the scriptures to battle the inner demons, because no other person can save you from your own demons. This is a fight we all have to fight. It's not like, okay, I'm getting banged over by a demon here, and I can call another brother to come in and then fight that demon off me. Now we can pray for brothers, and that can be a big help, you know. Brothers pray for brothers, you know, and that can be a big help. But at the end of the day, it's your fight. You know, it's your fight. You can't get on the phone and like, can you come and help me? I've got this demon. No, you know, at the end of the day, you have to fight your own fight. Yes, brothers can pray for you and that can be a big help. But ultimately, you should be praying for yourself. If you ain't praying for yourself, then you're fucked. Straight up and down, right? Because we're given spiritual tools to fight. Look, the Bible's very clear. Yahushua said to some of his disciples when they tried to cast out a demon and they couldn't, what did he say to them? Because of your lack of faith, and, you know, certain demons only go out by fasting and prayer. So these are the tools: faith, fasting, prayer. You know, and that goes into Ephesians 6th chapter, what the helmet of faith, sword of salvation, sword of the Spirit, roughly paraphrasing. So we're given the tools to fight this fight. The Most High hasn't left us, just thrown us into the deep end of the swimming pool with sharks and be like, yeah, get out of it yourself. Or he hasn't thrown us into the boxing ring with, you know, with a guy who's like, you know, above our weight class, looking to bang us over, and not said, hey, look, man, these are the tools to get out of the situation. The Most High gave us the way to battle, but we've got to apply it. If we aren't applying it daily, then we're being overcome. And we're not supposed to be overcome. We're supposed to overcome the world. The world isn't supposed to overcome us. We are supposed to overcome the world. So to overcome the world, you have to be willing to fight. So you've got to have a fighter's spirit and a fighter's mindset. You can't just be all complacent like, oh, well, this happened to me and that happened to me and I'm the victim and, oh, there's nothing I can do and woe is me. No, fuck that spirit, man. Fuck that spirit. We're not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to be warriors in this truth. Warriors in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? It's not about, you know, going down the gym, you know, bench pressing until you can't bench press no more, than coming out with some, you know, broad chest and thinking, yeah, I'm ready. Nah, man. It's about your spirit. Your spirit is what's more important. You can't have a weak spirit, because that weak spirit will be banged over by demons left, right, and center till you don't even know who you are anymore. You're there lying to yourself, making excuses for yourself, thinking it's everybody else's problem, pointing the finger at everybody here, there, and everywhere, but never looking in the mirror, never checking yourself. I said to another brother recently, there's a lot of people who are full of shit. And there's a lot of people who would rather go blind by staring at the sun than they would than actually staring in the mirror. They'd be more content to stare at the sun and go blind than they would be to actually look in the mirror and address their own fundamental flaws of character. Because you know what? We've all got character flaws. Some more than others. But the purpose of life isn't to try and hide those flaws and sweep it under the carpet and make some fake-ass persona to where you're trying to persuade everybody around you that you're someone that you're not, so that people can look at you in a way that you desire to be looked at, but you haven't got the tenacity or the willpower or the strength of character to actually become the person you want to be, so that people can see you the way you want to be seen, but you make up some fake-ass shit and you're just a liar. Well, guess what? In due time, you're going to be found out you're a liar, because you're going to get exposed, because no lie can endure forever. What does the truth teach us, man? The truth is what endures forever, but a lie is for a moment. That moment can be 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 45 years. It doesn't matter. But guess what? In due time, the truth will always expose a lie. So why build into a lie? Why sow into a lie? You've got to be a damn fucking fool to do that and think you can get away with it in the truth. Because guess what? You can't. Everything will be brought out in the open, man. Furthermore, Yahushua hates lies. In Revelation 22, does it not say all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You might think you're doing yourself good by lying, but really you're ultimately hurting yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Really, in a spiritual sense. That's what you do when you lie. That's why it's better to just be honest about things and tell the truth about things. Because you know what? If you tell the truth about something, People might look at you sideways for a moment, but that moment will pass. If you lie about something, well, guess what? That moment won't pass so soon. People might be looking at you in a good way, and then you're too scared to admit the truth because you know if you admit the truth, you're going to lose their respect. So then you sustain the lie. And you have to put more and more time into sustaining the lie to the point where it ends up you're running ragged from left, right, up, down, here, there, everywhere, just to try and sustain a lie, and you never have any peace in that. See, there's a level of peace that comes with being honest. There's a level of peace that comes with being content. There's a level of peace that comes with being real about who you are. And a liar will never experience that. Let me come back to the point. Matthew 4. Verse 5. Then the devil taketh him up to the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou shalt dash thy foot against a stone. How did Yahushua battle this demon? How did he battle Satan himself, the top demon on the left-hand side who came to him? He used the scriptures. This is what we're all supposed to do. And Yahushua said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. You see, Yahushua applied Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Verse 8. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and sheweth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things I will give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. And Yahushua said unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. And here's the point. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. So Yahushua defeated Satan in that situation. Let's go back to Genesis 4. Cain didn't do that. What did Cain do? Let's read it. Back in Genesis 4. And in the process of time, starting at verse 3. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground, an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel he also brought the firstlings of his flock, and the fat thereof. And Yahweh had no respect unto Abel and unto his offering. So forgive me, I read that wrong. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and his offering, but unto Cain and his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt have rule over him. So basically, as I said, Cain reached a fork in the road. He could either humble down, face his bullshit, fix up his bullshit, get right with the Lord and be blessed, or he could entertain seducing spirits, entertain sin, and eventually sin would be perfected and he'd act out upon it and slay his brother. Well, Cain was the weaker man, because a weak man in the spirit will give in to sin. A weak man in the spirit will forsake his integrity. A weak man in the spirit will do off shit, not fearing the recompense that can come from on high, from the Most High. And it says, verse 8, And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass that when they were in the field, Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. First murder. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And here's the kicker. And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And that's the point, because in this truth, we are supposed to be our brother's keeper. We are supposed to be looking out for our brothers. We are supposed to put off the old man and stop having that niggly individualistic mindset. Because as I said, when you're working as a team, the success of one brother benefits you. Because it's not just a success for that brother, it's a success for the whole team. Likewise, if one brother's doing some off shit, that affects the team too. Because what did the scriptures say? A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So your whole let's say you got a camp. Your whole camp could be put into a bad light by one brother doing some off shit. You know, the whole camp could end up being tainted by that brush, because there is such a thing as being guilty by association. You know, we might not like it, but that's how the world works. On associations. Oh, I know him. Yeah, he's with them. Oh, I know him. He's with them. Or I know her. Yeah, she's from there. You know, they even did it to Yahushua, man. What did they say? Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Roughly paraphrasing. Associations are real. So therefore, we've got to be very mindful of how we're performing and how the people around us are performing. Because you know what? We don't want to obtain a bad report. We're out here to retain a good report from the Most High and the angels. So Cain had that individualistic mindset of, so what, man? I'm not a brother's keeper. What are you asking me for? Well, you're supposed to be, man. What does the scripture say? Love thy neighbor as thyself. You know, you're not supposed to suffer evil to happen to your neighbor, man. I'm sure there's a law. I'm just going to roughly paraphrase. I'm not going to pull it out verbatim. But like, you know, if your neighbor's got a sheep, let's say your neighbor's got some cattle, and one of the cattle walks out of his field and is wandering down the road. If you see that, man, well, you know what? You go and take that cattle and you return it to your neighbor, man. You help him out. You don't just think, oh, well, it's not my problem. Let the cattle wander off and fall into a ditch and die. You're not supposed to have that mindset in the truth, man. What's that about? That's worldly. That's niggly, man. Now, unfortunately, a lot of us grew up in the ghetto, which the meaning of the word ghetto is, you know, the historical dwelling place of the Jews. So that's spiritual. But, you know, we're coming from rough backgrounds where it's every man for himself, dog eat dog. That's how niggas are, man. And you might have a group of friends in the world, and let's say something nice happens to you. Let's say the Most High bless you with a nice woman. All of a sudden, you got other niggas looking at you sideways, thinking, well, why has he got that? And scheming on you, trying to steal your woman. Or let's say, you get a nice pair of trainers. Jake's stupid trainers of all things. You might bust a new pair of trainers. Oh, well, why has he got them trainers and I haven't? My brothers in the world used to move like that, man. So I'm no alien to that kind of hater, bullshit mentality mindset. That's why it really pisses me off personally. On a personal level, I can't fucking stand that shit. Because it's just off and it's wrong. And there's no reason for it to happen in the truth. So I made the point there of Cain had that spirit towards Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? Well, you're supposed to be. I'm going to pull another precept here. Bear with me a second. Where am I at? Get some precepts here. Yeah. I'm going to bring out this one. James chapter 1 verse 12. Because, well, hang on, let me read this again. The reason why Cain killed Abel is because he entertained sin. He entertained them thoughts. Yeah, you could murder your brother, you know. Yeah, he's just trying to show you up, man. He made you look bad because he offered the right sacrifice. Yeah, man, he's always trying to upstage you. Yeah, who does he think he is? Yeah, man, he's getting puffed up, man. Who does he think he is? Look at him boasting. Yeah, let me take him out. That's how it starts. It's subtle, but it's insidious. And what happens at the end? It brings forth sin. This is why I'm making the point. We're supposed to check our thoughts, man. You shouldn't have your thoughts be saying off shit to you and you're not checking it. There's a reason why we read the scriptures. There's a reason why this book is called the word of the Lord is likened unto a sword. Sword of the Spirit. But what good's a sword if you don't use it? James 1, starting at verse 12. I'm going to say something. Something just came into my mind. A memory I have. Of something that my mum said to me when I was very young. And it's very strange because the same things that were said to me were said to my brother. However, I guess it's like the scriptures say. When a certain word comes and it falls upon stony ground, and then the birds come and they snatch it away. My brother didn't internalize the things, the lessons, the life lessons that a lot of the good life lessons that my mum tried to bestow upon us. But here's one of them. My mum always said to me when I was young, you should never envy what another person has, because you don't know what that person had to do to obtain it. Say it again. You should never envy what another person has, because you don't know what that person had to do or go through to obtain it. So, let me break this down. A person might have to go through hell to get to a certain, to obtain something. But oftentimes you don't see that. Because when you see the person, if you're carnal minded, you just see them and you look at them on that day and you won't see that, like, they might be in a good place now, but they might have had to spend 100 days in hell in order to get to that one good day. But you see them and you don't see that because you can't see their past. You don't know where they've come from. You don't know their trials and their tribulations. You don't know their story. But then you see them and you're thinking, oh, well, why is he this, or why is he so that, and why haven't I got what he's got, or stupid thoughts like that. And you can start to envy. But you don't know. You don't know that man might have had to do a lot of work in order to attain the position or the confidence or the level of the spirit that's bestowed upon him, or whatever it may be that he's got at that point. You don't know because you haven't seen his journey. Or, I'll use he, because I'm not going to bother to talk about women right now. Talking about men, Most High, the tabernacle of the Most High is, the tabernacle of the Most High is with men. So, talking about men. But a simple mind won't see that. They won't consider. But then there's the flip side of it too. Someone might have done some off shit to get what they got. And they might have it now. And it might seem like a blessing. But the end of that person won't be good. Because what did David say in one of the Psalms? I was envious at the prosperity of the wicked. But at the end, it's not going to end well with the wicked. It's going to end well with the just. The person who seems like he hasn't got a lot now, in the end will be increased. And the person who has it all now, i.e. Esau, he's going to lose it all and go into slavery and captivity. But beyond Jacob and Esau, even within Jake, you've got wicked men amongst Jake who may have done some off shit to get to where they're at. So you never know what a person may or may not have to have done or to have been through to obtain what they have. So therefore, what's the moral of that story? Don't ever covet. No point. No need for it. If you haven't got, put the time in, do your own work, and pray to the Lord, and maybe he'll bestow it on you in righteousness, Lord willing. But let me get James, and I'll probably, because I've been talking for a long time, I didn't intend this lesson to be so long. I'll get James 1. I'll start at verse 12. Maybe I'll close out on this because I don't want to go too long. James, first chapter, starting at verse 12, says, Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. That's what we really should be working for. Anything we get in this world is just a pastime or a little thing to help us get by. The real thing we should be working towards is a crown. And guess what? Every member of the elect's crown is going to be different and tailor-made for that member of the elect. Do you think in the kingdom you're going to have like elect member 192 sitting across the room side-eyeing elect member 193 because his crown's bigger than his? Do you think that's really going to be going on in the kingdom? So if that's not going to be going on in the kingdom, which we know it won't, then why on earth would it happen on this side? Why on earth should we be side-eyeing brothers and be thinking, oh, well, why him and blah, 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 blah. All this kind of madness. To me, it's juvenile and childish. I'm speaking about it because, Lord willing, it's edifying. But really, as men, that mindset is carnal and childish and of the world. But guess what? I'll tell you a secret. It's not so much of a secret. It's evident if you just look. But a lot of the people who are walking around as grown adults in this world, a lot of them are still children. They've reached maturity in the flesh, but in the spirit, they still behave as children. Elder Apostle Gabar often says to be a real man, you have to first become a man of the Lord. And throughout the scriptures, we are constantly told, gird up thy loins and show thyself as a man. See, even as a man myself, i.e. as in above the age of 12, or in this society above the age of 18, I didn't really become a man until I started to understand this Bible and this truth. I mean, yeah, okay, I might have had masculine qualities, but really it's this truth that gives you the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that you can really start to operate as a man. Because you know what a man's supposed to do? He's supposed to move and operate according to the law of the Lord. What does Ecclesiastes the 12th chapter say? For this is the whole duty of the man, fear the Most High and keep his commandments. If you're not keeping the Most High's commandments, you're not really a man. You're just some brute beast walking up and down in the world. But back to the point I'm reading. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive a crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. You see, you got to love the Lord more than you love yourself. You got to love the Lord more than your own desires. Verse 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lusts and enticed. Again, Proverbs 3 verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. When you start to lean upon your own understanding, that's when you start to entertain your own lusts. You become more carnal. And that's when them demons can whisper in your ears, making you think it's your own voice, and you start having all these off thoughts which are not being regulated or checked by you bringing out precepts to correct your thoughts and bring your thoughts into accordance with the law of the Lord. See, we only stay on track so long as we stay on track. If we start going wayward off here, wayward off there, guess what? It's not going to be too long before you find yourself off wandering around in the wilderness in no man's land. Stay on the straight path, man. Even in 2nd Ezra, it talks about that narrow path that only one man can enter at a time. And on the right hand, you've got the deep water, and on the left, you've got the fire. And it's very dangerous that you might fall into either. That's how narrow the path of the truth is, man. And we've got to keep our feet on that tightrope. It says, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lusts and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And when it is finished, it bringeth forth death. So lust and sin, it's like it starts small. It's the little things. The little things that you might disregard and think, oh, well, that doesn't really matter. Guess what? It does matter. Everything matters. That's why, the quote from the apostles, we're supposed to keep our shit wire tight. That means we're supposed to be on our watch, not letting little things slip through the cracks. That's the purpose of a watchman. Let's say you're a watchman, and you're supposed to be watching out for the enemy, and you're there watching for an army of 100. But you see little trickles of 5 men here and 5 men there, and you're thinking, oh, well, those men don't matter. It's just 5 men. Oh, it's just another 5 men. Guess what? Those little 5 men will slip through the cracks, enter into the city, start moving about as spies, and maybe they'll even start sowing sedition within your own walls, and then start an uprising. And then when you're there fighting amongst yourselves, that's when the enemy comes in with an army of 1,000 and then destroys your ass. How do you think Esau's infiltrated all these nations over the years? That's the very tactic he used, by sending in little, these little spies, little, what do they call it, agent provocateurs and shit. Come on, man, we're supposed to be wise to this shit. We're supposed to be wise to this game, not be fucking sleeping at the wheel. Acting like, oh yeah, just letting shit slide, overlooking things. Come on, man, are we not called to be watchmen? Watchmen are supposed to watch. So if you're watching, you're supposed to see these things, man. Not let it build up and bubble over like a pot of boiling water in a cooker. We're supposed to be watching and not letting these little things slip through the cracks, because little problems end up becoming big problems. And big problems end up creating situations which might just end up having brothers shown a door. It's sad. It's really, really sad. But hey, this is the nature of the game. You know, every story, I've said this before, I'll probably do a lesson on it, Lord willing, if the Lord wills. But there's only 7 storylines. There's 7 basic plots. And unfortunately, one of those plots is tragedy. So that's part of the Most High's, and it's funny because 7 represents completion. But yeah, every story can be broken down into 7 categories. And one of them is tragedy. So it's tragic that brothers may get sifted or they may fall out. But guess what? It's part of the Lord's story and he wants that drama. So it is what it is. So I'm going to read this precept again and close out because I've been talking for over an hour now. James 1 and verse 12. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive a crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin when it is finished bringeth forth death. Now, going back to the beginning of this lesson, that's exactly what happened in Cain's situation. He entertained sin. His lust entertained the sin, and when the sin was conceived, it brought forth death. Yeah? It's as simple as that. It's not, well, it is deep because it's always the scriptures, but the scriptures are always deep. But you know what I mean? I don't want to take it too much deeper, too much further, because I feel the point's been made. If Cain had a different attitude, a more responsible attitude, and was like, you know what? I did wrong. I fucked up. Abel, he offered a good sacrifice. I respect that because he's doing the right thing. You know what? Rather than envying him, I'm going to look at him as an example. And I'm going to try and be more like him. What a different story Genesis 4 would have been. Or even the rest of the scriptures would have been if that were the case. However, that's not the story the Most High wanted to tell at that particular point in time. So therefore, we're playing out the story as the Most High wanted to play it. But that doesn't mean we should overlook the moral of the story. Because the moral of the story is, in this truth, we are supposed to be our brother's keeper. So with that, giving all praises, honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bar Hashem Yahweh Shai, Bar Hashem Magar Kodash. Double honors, as always, unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Shalom once again to the 144,000 elect men of the nation of Israel and the other members of the elect that are destined to be saved. I'm out for this one, and I'll be back again, Lord willing, with another lesson. Hopefully this was edifying for now. Shalom, wa ball, welcome, Shalom.